Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Tim Matthews, with my co-host, Gerod, the Chief Rush.
How are you, sir? How are you, sir? You got a different background. Where are you right now?
Yeah, I certainly have. Apologies, guys, if it's a little bit echo. My audio isn't as good on this one. I'm actually in Playa del Carmen. We'll be going to Tulum on Wednesday. You will be here, which will be fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here today, Gerod. I know you could be a lot of other places. You're a very in-demand guy, be it from your wife or your kids or your friends. You're the kind of guy that has an answer for a lot of things, which is great. And at the same time, again, back to my audio, if this is your first time catching us, be it on video or audio, if it's a little bit sucky right now, that's because we just wanted to make sure we got one out or some out to you guys whilst we are away. And I wasn't able to fit my mic and everything else into the suitcase because I have a lot of things for the event. So anyway, enough of the boring logistics. On a scale of 1 to 5, Chief, how are you feeling today?
And I almost sent you a Voxer message, which for those that don't know, when you're part of the Powerful Man and you sign up for the levels, sometimes you get direct access to the guys. And I had direct access to Tim as a part of my program. And I almost sent you a Voxer message yesterday. I was like, I don't know why I feel this good, but I feel great. And I was like, I feel alive. I feel well. I was just driving with my kids in the car and I knew you were traveling. So I was like, I'm not going to bug them with him right now. But I was just like, I'm a 5. I feel alive at 5. And it's, it's amazing. It's amazing to feel this alive.
It really is. When I grew up, I want to be like Chief Rush. I'm stealing that saying from you. But anyway, you had an amazing conversation idea that you wanted to bring to the table, which really lends very well to the idea of you being alive at 5, right?
Yeah.
And the question you asked me, which was a really great question. And you kind of played it down a little bit, but it really got me thinking. And it was the idea of life flowing through you. Now, I'll let you take it away in a moment. For some of the guys that are listening to this, maybe that might sound a little bit woo-woo, or it may sound strange. I don't know how it may sound. I know the first time I heard stuff like that, I just didn't get it. And I'm guessing, Gerod, where you were maybe 18 months ago to 2 years ago, I'm guessing you probably wouldn't have understood that either. Nothing wrong with that, right? So first of all, what does it mean to you to be having life flowing through you? And I'll then share what it means to me.
So we always talk about the path of force versus the path of power here. And to me, it goes a step beyond that. And it's a path of flow, like the book you kindly sent me. It's the ability to have life happen without overthinking, without over questioning, without micromanaging everything in life and allowing life to just happen. But all the right things seem to happen. And when the wrong things happen, it's okay. And that's life. And you just own it, move on and let life just kind of happen. And I think a big part of that is, for me at least, was when I kind of shifted to starting to say yes to more things. Instead of overthinking everything, instead of overanalyzing, micromanaging, just saying yes and being like, you know what, why not? And I've done that lately in a couple big ways for both me and my family, and it's worked out incredibly. And so now I'm like, oh, this feels good. Like, what more? What more?
Yeah, that's incredible. And do you know what? It feels scary in the time though, right? It sounds like an easy concept to say yes, but in the moment, it can feel quite exciting, but also scary. And inevitably your mind wants to come in and question it and doubt things. And we've been able to really trust and let go and say yes. I think one is takes a lot of courage and trust in yourself. And two, can lead to some really great experiences.
Yeah. Trusting your gut, leaning into the fear a little bit. And from someone who's suffered with fear and anxiety issues his whole life, not letting that fear control you, it's exciting. And it's like, ooh, this feels nice. Like, I kind of like being on the edge. I like doing things that quote unquote aren't inside the box per se of what you envision your life to be. It's kind of like tomorrow I'm getting on a plane in 48 hours, getting on a plane and going to Tulum to meet you guys. I would normally never take off in the middle of a work week, let alone leave my family for a minute, but I know it's going to be a great experience, and just say yes and see what happens of it. And my wife supports me in everything I do now. And she's like, yeah, go feed whatever your itch that you have to push that need forward.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to make this practical. I'm going to do my best to make this practical for some of the guys listening. So there are certain schools of thought whereby they believe that you've essentially got 4 stages of consciousness, right? We all do. And the first stage is where we come into this world and life happens to you. That's the first stage. So if you're able to write that down, then write it down. Number 1, 4 stages of consciousness at the top. Number 1, life happens to me. Now, think of a baby, right? When a baby comes into this world, it can't really fend for itself, right? It's reliant on its parents for survival, for food, for warmth, for care, for shelter. That is the first level of consciousness. That is when life happens to you, right? And for some people, they don't ever really grow out of this, or they might do, but what happens is they revert to it from a mindset. So example here might be if you're in a position whereby you're achieving a level of success, let's say financially in your business, but you are then complaining about the staff that you attract or the number of hours that you work. And it's kind of like victimhood in a way in that first level of consciousness. And when you're in that place and you're feeling rather empty and rather scarce, you naturally look for people around you to then take care of you and rescue you. And this is where you then might start to make your lover more like your mother, right? Start offloading all of your problems onto her and wanting her to fix them. Start asking for her, well, not asking, but having her pick up after you around the house. Really put all the decisions on leadership for the most part onto her. It's quite an easy trap to fall into, and one that a lot of guys do. And it kills the level of intimacy and respect and admiration that is between a man and wife, and especially that she has for him. Right? So that's the first level of consciousness. So some people never actually get out of that, even though the external life situation that they've built would be a complete contradiction to that. But emotionally, that's where they are. Now, the second stage of consciousness is then life happens by me. And what that means is, okay, I exert an influence in the world. I can do something and that creates a result. I can walk into a negotiation and I can win the deal, all right? So it can be situational, and maybe you experience this at times when you'd walk into a boardroom, you could command the boardroom, life would be happening by you, or even the third level of consciousness as you. We'll get to that in a moment. But then at home, it kind of falls back into life happens to me. Or even in the negotiation, maybe you've settled for something or not really asked for what you wanted, or not really priced the project to the level that you knew you could and the level that you deserved, right? Builds resentment. Life happens to me, slipping back into the first level. Second level, life happens by me. I exert a force. Third level is life happens as me. And that's where you start to wake up to your real potential. And you start to realize, holy shit, I am actually creating things in this world and I'm doing it consciously. I'm doing it from a place of intention, right? I'm saying yes to things like you've said. I'm being aware of what's a fuck yes and a hell no. And I'm getting those hell no's out of my life. I'm saying fuck yes a lot more. Wow, this feels good. Wow, this is easy. I'm not working as many hours. I'm finishing earlier and picking my kids up from school. I am following the hobbies I actually enjoy because I've let go of the guilt of finishing early and having to work so much. So life is starting to happen as me. And the fourth stage of consciousness is where life happens through me. Now, the difference between as me and through me is the effort. And what I mean by that is when life is happening through you, that's when you start to have those one or two ideas, maybe in the year, maybe in the week, maybe in the month, and you act on those ideas. And those ideas feel scary, they feel exciting, they feel like they just set you on fire. And instead of second guessing yourself and maybe letting that idea pass on by and not acting on it, boom, he sees it. The moment between inspiration and action, that delay is short. It's boom, boom, boom. And because you're not acting from a place of busyness, which is kind of still a little bit of busyness within as me, there's still a little bit of busyness. But as me to through me, there isn't busyness, there's flow and inspiration. And there's a great book, in fact, called The Surrender Experiment, which I think you've read, Gerod. And that's an example of life happening through me. And there are certain conditions that you can set up within your life that can make it easier for life to happen through you. And we'll get to those in a moment. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about these 4 stages and whether you've seen them play out in your life. And I've seen them play out in my life. And what has been the result of it?
100%. And thank you for that. That was life happening through you right there. That was great flow. I think right now, if I'm being honest with myself, life is happening as me, which is a huge, far place from where I once was when life was just happening to me. But I have these glimmers and these moments where life happens through me. And I see what it tastes like and I see what happens. One of those that comes to mind is when I eulogized my mom this past year. And it was my moment where I was the lighthouse for my family, and I was able to have words and message and things happen that just could have never happened in real life. And life was happening through me at that point.
On that note, give a couple of specifics on what happened for the guys. Obviously, I know, but they don't. In particular, the performance that happened at the funeral and how that came about. I think that's a really great example of this.
So a lot of people, there's a song in the Christian world called "I Can Only Imagine." It's actually the #1 Christian selling song of all time, and my mom was a large Christian. I as well. And as she was passing, my aunt said, we need to sing to her Amazing Grace. And it was the worst rendition of Amazing Grace you've ever heard in your life. And we all made a joke at the end, like, Mom, where you're going, the angels are going to sound a lot better than this. And we all laughed or whatever. And then I knew in that moment, I'm like, the song she wanted to hear at her funeral or played for her at her funeral was I Can Only Imagine. So I played the song for her as she was passing, and my stepdad looked at me and he goes, we have to play that at her funeral. And so in my think big brain, I was like, man, I'm going to get the band who made this song to perform at her funeral. I was like, I'm going to find a way. And then I was like, that's silly. Put that aside. So the next day I go to the gym and my trainer was like, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm like, man, I need to sweat. My mom just died. I want to get some sweat medicine, whatever. He's like, cool. And so we get to talking about life and everything. And I was like, hey, where's that guy with the long hair been? And he goes, who, John? He's like, yeah, he goes, I go, yeah, what's his story? He's like, John's a big Broadway star. He's home from being on Broadway because of COVID. And I was like, he looks familiar. It's like, where do I know John from? And he's like, well, he goes, the movie rendition. I'm getting goosebumps. He's like, the movie rendition of the song I Can Only Imagine. They made a feature film in America about it. I'm talking A-list actors. It was a big deal. It's like, yeah. He goes, well, John was the lead role in that movie. I Can Only Imagine. And then my light bulb went off and I was like, I know where I know that guy and I know what needs to happen right now. And I got hold of John. I made my case to him and John sang the song I Can Only Imagine at my mom's funeral. And it was just like, how in the world did this go from an idea to manifestation to him singing in front of 300 of my family members? And we have the most stoic preacher of all. He's the best preacher on the face of the planet. I mean, he's like literally one of the best pastors in America. Okay. He is stoic as the day is long. Never seen the man cry. I've been going to his church 25 years. And I look over in the middle of my mom's funeral and just while this guy's singing and just tears are pouring down his face. And I was just like, the impact that song had. And I got messages for days about that. And it wasn't about me at that point. I wasn't stroking my ego. John actually wasn't even about John. This is the crazy part. John lost his mom to cancer. And his dad asked him to sing at that funeral. And he said he couldn't do it. So he had this healing experience through my mom's funeral. And it was incredible.
I've got it too. I've got goosebumps.
That's just one of the prime examples.
Yeah. So I want to break down how you can, if you're listening to this, how you can create the conditions so things like this happen and happen frequently, but more importantly, they are within your control. Right? So I'm going to break this down. Let's just see if you resonate with this, Gerod. So the first thing that's foundational in making this happen is you've got to get out of your head and into your heart. And you might be listening to that and it might be not what you imagine and it might sound a bit woo-woo or fluffy or feminine or I don't know what. But the reality is, in order for you to be in tune with that idea of, look, I'm going to get that guy to sing, right? You've got to turn down the volume of the external noise. And that external noise can be your mind and it can be your environment, right? The way that we like to talk about this, and this is the transitioning living from the outside into the inside out, right? When the guys come to us, they're living from the outside in, dependent on material possessions and what they say about who they are as a man and really confusing their net worth for their self-worth, right? And the other symptoms that go along with that, that's them living from the outside in. And in that place, usually there's a high degree of noise, be it within themselves, so their own mind, be it within their environment, so people constantly ringing them because they crave, they kind of micromanage and like to feel important and like to feel needed. So their phone is blowing up, whatever. There's various ways that there's noise in the environment, right? So the first thing you've got to do is turn that noise down. And when you turn that noise down, what happens is the noise on the inside turns up. And that noise on the inside is your own instincts. It's your inner voice. It's your intuition. And when you start to live from the inside out, and you've got self at the base of the pyramid, and that's the first territory instead of business, it creates the conditions for you to be able to hear what that voice is saying. Right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is then from that place of stillness, it creates the foundation within which you're able to have conviction. All right? So think of it this way. This voice has been speaking to your entire life. It's kind of been an itch that you've not been able to scratch, kind of like one of those itches in the middle of your back, and you just know there's more there for you. You just know there's something there, but you can't quite access it, right? When you turn down the noise, all of a sudden you can reach the itch and you can scratch it, and it feels really good. And when it feels good and you've scratched it, okay. You're then aware of the next itch that comes up. And guess what? You scratch it again because last time it felt so good. And the more you get these itches and the more you scratch them, the more you work that muscle of trusting yourself. And that's what helps you to gain the conviction that, right, idea, boom, I'm doing that. Like you said, I had the idea, wow, I want to get that guy singing. Oh, no, that's a crazy idea. The mind will come in, right? Mm-hmm. But you just got to act. So that's the second thing, right? You've got to be able to pay attention to it. Know how it feels. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel exciting. And it's just going to feel right. It's not going to feel chaotic and busy like it would do if it came from your head, right? It feels kind of peaceful. Although it's scary and exciting, it just feels kind of peaceful. It feels kind of right. Mm-hmm. Now, the third thing you can do here is, and this kind of encompasses a lot of the philosophies of living from the inside out, is making sure that you have created the conditions in your life whereby you have space. You have space where nothing is coming in to fill the space. Because then the space can be filled by the itch. Mm. But if you're obsessed with being busy, we spoke about on previous podcasts, then you're not going to have any much space. So things like your alpha rising shine routine creates space. Things like you going and clearing your head and working out creates space. Eating clean creates space. Having your day so it's not packed out, so you've just got space where you can pick up your kids and then do a meeting and then work out and then be in great conversations that inspire you with fantastic men. This all creates space and creates the right conditions. It's kind of like you've been a top class athlete, right? And getting signed for a big team. And then you walk in and you're training with them and you're eating the food that they eat. And you sat around the table discussing the plays and the strategies that they discuss. It just primes you to then go out on that field and play so much better than you were playing for the last team that were a league below them. Mm. Right? So you want to create the space, and be it journaling, be it meditation, they all form part of the Alpha Rise and Shine. But again, it's from the space that the itch can fill it. Right? So, and by no means, I don't want to sit here and preach and pretend like I have all the answers. I definitely do not. I just know these are the things that, in a nutshell, have worked for me in my life and worked for a lot of you guys. And we've seen them produce repeatable, consistent success and shifts. So just, if you're curious and you're wondering, maybe just give it a try, right? Just see. And you could do it as simply as starting to say yes when the itch appears. If you're not able to turn that noise right away, just start to pay attention. Because turning that noise can be a bit of a process. It can take a bit of time. So the most straightforward way would start paying attention to the itch and say yes. But anyway, I digress. So on those points, Gerod, what do you think about those?
I think that, number one, as an aside, give yourself more credit, because you said you don't know, you do know. And I'm the proof, and Tony's the proof, and Aaron's the proof, and I can give you a million reasons why the men in this group are the proof. These things work, and I'm an outsider, guys. I have nothing to gain. I'm a student of this teaching, and I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, you do know what you're talking about, and you are living proof, and we're living proof that these methods work. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know I'm living proof at the end of the day. And so I'm happier in my life than honestly I've ever been. And I think we'll do another podcast after that where Tim kind of interviews me about about my journey, but so stay tuned to that. But I think that living your best life starts with saying yes and trusting that itch, or knowing where to scratch that itch. Okay, cool. You know where the itch is. Awesome. But then also not denying the itch and being like, I'll scratch it later. I'll work out later. I'll start eating right later. I'll alpha rise and shine tomorrow. We as humans have a tendency to just be complacent, and it takes, as Doug Holt says, take action and really take action. And when you take action and you lean into that, anything's possible. If anybody's proof of that, trust me, I am, and anything is possible.
I love it. Well, guys, if you have any questions on this, head over to the Facebook group. Feel free to post them there, and we'll answer them. Gerod's in there, I'm in there, Doug, the rest of the coaches. We'll definitely get to them. If you have any questions on future topics or how to apply this, maybe you don't know where the itch is, maybe you don't know how to turn on the noise, maybe you're scared of scratching the itch. It can be scary at times, especially when you're first getting used to it. I know for me, when I first started to scratch that itch, I definitely didn't scratch it in the way I scratch it now, put it that way. But yeah, anyway, feel free, go over there and we'll get back to you. Gerod, Chief.
I'll see you in 48 hours.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being here.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so guys, it's another wrap for us on the Powerful Man Show. Until next time, take action, as the master himself says.